God bless you. Today we're in the second book of Kings in the New Jerusalem Holy Bible, and we are in chapter 1. After Ahab's death, Moab rebelled against Israel. Ahaziah had fallen from the balcony of his upper room in Samaria and was lying ill. So he sent messengers saying to them, "Go and consult Baal Zebub, god of Ekron, and ask whether I shall recover from my illness." But the angel of Yahweh said to Elijah the Tishbite, "Up, go and intercept the king of Samaria's messengers. Say to them, is there no God in Israel for you to go and consult Baal Zebub, god of Ekron? Yahweh says this, you will never leave the bed you have gotten into. You are certainly going to die." And Elijah set out. The messengers returned to the king, who said, "Why have you come back?" "A man came to meet us," they answered. He said, "Go back to the king who sent you and tell him, Yahweh says this, is there no God in Israel for you to go and consult Baal Zebub, god of Ekron? For this you will never leave the bed you have gotten into. You are certainly going to die." He said, "This man who met you and said all this, what was he like?" "A man wearing a hair cloak," they answered, "and a leather loincloth. It was Elijah the Tishbite," he said. He then sent a captain of 50 soldiers with 50 men to Elijah, whom they found sitting on top of a hill. The captain went up to him and said, "Man of God, the king says, come down." Elijah answered the captain, "If I am a man of God, may fire fall from heaven and destroy both you and your 50 men. And fire fell from heaven and destroyed him and his 50 men. The king sent a second captain of 50 men, again with 50 men. And he too went up and said, "Man of God, this is the king's order. Come down at once." Elijah answered them, "If I am a man of God, may fire fall from the heaven and destroy both you and your 50 men. And lightning fell from heaven and destroyed him and his 50 men. The king then sent a third captain of 50 to him, with another 50 men. The third captain of 50 came to Elijah, fell on his knees before him and pleaded with him. "Man of God," he said, "may my life and the lives of these 50 servants of yours count for something in your eyes. Fire has fallen from heaven and destroyed 2 captains of 50s and their companies. But this time may my life count for something in your eyes." The angel of Yahweh said to Elijah, "Go down with him, do not be afraid of him." He rose and accompanied him down to the king and said to him, "Yahweh says this, since you sent messengers to consult Baal Zebub, god of Ekron, you will never leave the bed you have gotten into. You are certainly going to die." And in accordance with the word of Yahweh, which Elijah had uttered, he died. Since he had no son, his brother Jehoram succeeded him in the 2nd year of Jehoram, son of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah. The rest of the history of Ahaziah and his career, is this not recorded in the book of the annals of the kings of Israel? Section 6. The Elijah cycle. Now we are still in the book of 1 Kings, 2 Kings, and the sections continue. So this is section 6, the Elisha cycle. Part A, its opening. Elijah is taken up to heaven and Elisha succeeds him. Chapter 2. This is what happened when Yahweh took Elijah up to heaven in the whirlwind. Elijah and Elisha set out from Gilgal. And Elijah said to Elisha, "You stay here, for Yahweh is only sending me to Bethel." But Elisha replied, As Yahweh lives, and as you yourself live, I will not leave you. And they went down to Bethel. The brotherhood of prophets living at Bethel came out to meet Elisha and said, "Do you know that Yahweh will carry your Lord and Master away today?" "Yes, I know," he said. "Be quiet." Elijah said, "Elisha, you stay here. Yahweh is only sending me to Jericho." But he replied, "As Yahweh lives and as you yourself live, I will not leave you." And they went on to Jericho. The brotherhood of prophets living at Jericho went up to Elisha and said, "Do you know that Yahweh will carry your Lord and Master away today?" "Yes, I know," he said. "Be quiet." Elijah said, "Elisha, you stay here. Yahweh is only sending me to the Jordan." But he replied, "As Yahweh lives and as you yourself live, I will not leave you." And they went on together. 50 of the brotherhood of prophets followed them, halting some distance away as the two of them stood beside the Jordan. Elijah took his cloak, rolled it up and struck the water, and the water divided to the left and right, and the two of them crossed over dry shod. When they had crossed, Elijah said to Elisha, "Make your request. What can I do for you before I am snatched away from you?" Elisha answered, "Let me inherit a double share of your spirit." "Your request is difficult," Elijah said. "If you see me while I am being snatched away from you, it will be as you ask. If not, it will not be so." Now as they walked on, talking as they went, a chariot of fire appeared and horses of fire coming between the two of them, and Elijah went up to heaven in the whirlwind. Elisha saw it and shouted, "My father, my father, chariot of Israel and its chargers." Then he lost sight of him, and taking hold of his own clothes, he tore them in half. He picked up Elijah's cloak, which had fallen, and went back and stood on the bank of the Jordan. He took Elijah's cloak and struck the water. "Where is Yahweh, the God of Elijah?" he cried. As he struck the water, it divided to left and right, and Elijah crossed over. The brotherhood of prophets saw him in the distance and said, "The spirit of Elijah has come to rest on Elisha." They went to meet him and bowed to the ground before him. "Look," they said, "your servants have 50 strong men with them. Let them go and look for your master. The spirit of Yahweh may have taken him up and thrown him down on the mountain or into the valley." "Send no one," he replied. But they so shamed him with their insistence that he consented. So they sent 50 men who searched for 3 days without finding him. They came back to Elisha, who had stayed in Jericho, and he said, "Didn't I tell you not to go?" 2 miracles of Elisha. The people of the city said to Elisha, "The city is pleasant to live in, as my lord indeed can see, but the water is foul and the country suffers from miscarriages. Bring me a new bowl," he said, "and put some salt in it." They brought it to him. He then went to the source of the water, threw salt into it, and said, "Yahweh says this, I make this water wholesome. Neither death nor miscarriage shall come from it any more." And the water became wholesome, as it is today, exactly as Elisha had said it would. From there he went up to Bethel, and while he was on the road, some small boys came out of the town and jeered at him. "Hurry up, Baldy," they shouted. "Come on up, Baldy." He turned round and looked at them, and he cursed them in the name of Yahweh. And 2 bears came out of the forest and savaged 42 of the boys. From there he went up on to Mount Carmel, and then returned to Samaria. Part B. The Moabite War. Introduction to the reign of Jehoram in Israel, 852 to 841. Chapter 3. Jehoram, son of Ahab, became king of Israel in Samaria in the 18th year of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, and reigned for 12 years. He did what is displeasing to Yahweh, though not like his father and mother, for he did away with the pillar to Baal, which his father had made. Nonetheless, he continued to practice the sins into which Jeroboam, son of Nebat, had led Israel, and did not give them up. The expedition of Israel and Judah against Moab. Mesha, king of Moab, was a sheep breeder, and used to pay the king of Israel in tribute 100,000 lambs and 100,000 rams with their wool. But when Ahab died, the king of Moab rebelled against the king of Israel. At once King Jehoram left Samaria and mustered all Israel. After this he sent word to the king of Judah, "The king of Moab has rebelled against me. Will you go to war with me against Moab?" "I will," he replied. "I will be as you, my men as yours, my horses as yours," and added, Which way are we to do? Which way are we to attack? Through the desert of Edom? The other answered. So they set out, the king of Israel, the king of Judah, and the king of Edom. They carried out a flanking movement for 7 days, until there was no water left for the troops, or for the beast of their baggage train. "Alas," the king of Israel exclaimed, "Yahweh has summoned us 3 kings, only to put us into the power of Moab." But the king of Judah said, "Is there no prophet of Yahweh here for us to consult Yahweh through him?" One of the king of Israel's servants answered, "Elisha, son of Shaphat, is here, who used to pour water on the hands of Elijah." "The word of Yahweh is with him," the king of Judah said. So the king of Israel, the king of Judah, and the king of Edom went to consult him. But Elisha said to the king of Israel, "What business have you with me? Go to your father's and your mother's prophets." "No," the king of Israel answered. "Yahweh is the one who has summoned us 3 kings, only to put us into the power of Moab." Elisha replied, "By the life of Yahweh Shabbath, whom I serve, if I did not respect the king of Judah, I would take no notice of you, nor so much as look at you. Now bring me someone who can play the lyre." And as the magician played, the hand of Yahweh came on him, and he said, "Yahweh says this, dig in the valley, ditch after ditch. For Yahweh says, you will see no wind, you will see no rain, but this valley will become full of water, and you and your troops and your baggage animals will drink. But this is only a trifle in Yahweh's eyes, for he will put Moab itself into your power. You will storm every fortified town, fell every productive tree, block every water hole, ruin all the best fields with stones." Next morning, at the time when the oblation was being offered, water came from the direction of Edom, and the whole terrain was filled. When the Moabites learned that the kings were advancing to fight them, all those of an age to bear arms were mobilized. They took up positions on the frontier. In the morning, when they got up, the sun was shining on the water, and in the distance the Moabites saw the water as red as blood. "This is blood," they said. "The kings must have fought among themselves and killed one another. So now for the booty, Moab." But when they reached the Israelite camp, the Israelites launched their attack, and the Moabites fled before them. And as they advanced, they cut the Moabites to pieces. They laid the towns in ruins, and each man threw a stone into all the best fields to fill them up. And they blocked every water hole and felled every productive tree. In the end, there was only Kir Hazazeth left, which the slingers surrounded and bombarded. When the king of Moab saw that the battle had turned against him, he mustered 700 swordsmen in the hope of breaking a way out and going to the king of Aram, but he failed. Then he took his eldest son, who was to succeed him, and offered him as a sacrifice on the city wall. Alarmed at this, the Israelites withdrew and retired to their own territory. And as always, I love you.